On our anniversary, I found two U.S. passports with our names and strangers' faces. All right, I'm telling this the way I'd tell a friend, because if I try to make it sound cool, it'll feel fake even to me. We live outside Boston. I'm 33. My wife, let's call her Emma, is 32. We'd been together a long time, married 5 years. Normal life. No big drama. Or, I thought so. On our anniversary, I'm digging through a kitchen drawer looking for packing tape. I feel this thick envelope shoved way in the back. Not where we keep receipts, not our usual paperwork. Just an envelope hidden like someone stuffed it there fast. I open it, and my brain basically short circuits. Inside are two U.S. passports. They have our names and our birthdays. Mine is mine, hers is hers. But the photos? Completely different people. Not kinda off. Straight up strangers. There are also printed boarding passes. Logan to Lisbon, 2 days from then. And then there's a handwritten note. One line that made my stomach drop. If he calls, don't answer. If he shows up, don't open the door. I'm standing there in the kitchen holding all this, thinking, who is he? And then the second thought hits. Are we running from someone? Emma gets home. She sees the envelope in my hand and doesn't even try to play dumb. She just exhales like she's been waiting for this moment. She goes, I can explain. Just don't do anything crazy. And I'm going to be honest. My first thought was cheating, because when someone hides an envelope and writes him, it usually isn't about taxes. She starts talking about weird calls, someone asking questions, it being connected to my job. I work in cybersecurity, so yeah, it wasn't totally impossible. The scary part is, it almost sounded believable. Almost. Then she says, I didn't make these passports. Someone gave them to me. That's where it stopped being almost. Because who gives you passports with fake faces? And why would you hide that from your spouse? That night I didn't sleep. And I did something I've honestly never done before. I went through her laptop. Yeah, I know, it's gross. But after passports with strangers' faces, I wasn't exactly in a healthy headspace. I type passport into her search bar and find a folder labeled Lisbon. Inside is a PDF, basically a checklist. Cash, copies, contacts. And then one line that made my skin crawl. Meet A at 9:40 p.m. Don't text, calls only. Just A. One letter. And under it, like she was coaching herself, she'd written, don't feel guilty. This is for safety. So, there was guilt. She was just trying to talk herself out of it. The next day I told her I had to work late and drove to the spot listed for the meeting. A small cafe in Cambridge. Not romantic, not sketchy, just a place. Emma shows up on time, sits, waits. A few minutes later, a guy walks in. Not some movie villain, just a regular-looking man, early 40s, tired face. He sits down next to her, not across from her, like they're already on the same team. And then something happens that I genuinely wasn't prepared for. She reaches for his hand and kisses him. It's quick, not dramatic, but it's clearly a kiss. My chest just dropped out. I didn't even get to anger. It was more like my brain went empty. I got out of the car and walked straight in. I'm thinking, all right, here we go. Public meltdown time. And this is where the first real twist happens. The guy looks up at me and doesn't panic, doesn't flinch, doesn't stand up to leave. He calmly pulls out a leather case and puts it on the table where I can see it. A badge. He says, sit down. If you make a scene right now, you'll make things worse. I look at Emma. She's pale, like she's about to pass out. I go, "Who are you?" And he says, "Federal agent, and your wife has been cooperating." I swear the word cooperating sounded worse than affair, because suddenly it wasn't just personal. Now it felt dangerous. He introduces himself as Harper. I'd learn later that even that might not have been real. He opens a folder and slides two photos across the table. One is me, the other is a headstone, and on that headstone is my name, my birthday, and a date of death, 2009. I remember saying, "That's not possible." Like that was all my brain could produce. Emma very quietly says, "I didn't find this through him. I found it through you, through records, through the things that weren't adding up." And here's the part I'd been avoiding for years. I didn't grow up here. I was in foster care. And when I was 19, I got involved with people who could fix documents. At the time, it felt like a dumb, desperate way to start over. New name, clean slate, move on. Back then, I didn't think about where that name came from. I pictured it like something generated in a system, like a fake profile in a movie. That was naive. I get that now. What I didn't realize is that the identity I got wasn't invented. It belonged to a real person, a teenager who had died, and I'd been living under his name for years, long enough that I almost stopped thinking of it as not mine. Then Harper says something that made my stomach twist all over again. "The passports with the wrong faces aren't for you. They're for her." I blink. I'm like, "What?" He explains. If things went bad, they planned to get Emma out fast, because someone connected to that identity network was active again. And if he figured out I was one of the old clients, he might clean up loose ends. At that point, the kiss didn't even feel like the main problem anymore. The main problem was someone might show up at our house, but I still had to ask because it was eating me alive. "Emma, when was he just part of the plan? Or is this real?" She hesitates for 1 second and says, "At first it was work. Then I didn't know how to carry this alone. I needed someone to trust, and I couldn't trust you." Hearing that was awful, but I also understood why she said it. She was sitting on proof that the person she married wasn't who he said he was. How do you trust that? And then comes the twist that basically blew up what was left of reality. The next day, we get a call from an unknown number. Emma sees it and goes rigid, like real fear, not guilt. She answers and puts it on speaker. A calm voice says, almost politely, "Emma, tell him to give back what he took. Then nobody gets hurt." We try to call Harper. No answer. 10 minutes later, different people pull up to our house. Real federal agents, at least real in the sense that everything checked out. They walk in and the very first thing they ask is, "Where is Agent Harper?" And that's when my blood went cold, because they had no Agent Harper. Nobody by that name in the unit, meaning the guy from the cafe, wasn't federal at all. He was part of the same network. He'd been playing Emma the entire time. The passports, he supplied them. The note about not opening the door, his idea. The protection, packaging, and the relationship, yeah, that was the worst part. It wasn't just manipulation with threats. He got into her head emotionally too, and she fell for it because she was scared and alone and didn't know who she was married to anymore. Emma ended up on the floor in the hallway just repeating, "I thought I was choosing the lesser evil." I was taken in that night, not as some murderer or spy, more like a guy with a stolen identity who suddenly became very relevant to a bigger case. Emma was taken separately as a witness, and honestly, as a victim. A week later, I was offered a deal. Cooperate for real, tell them everything I remembered about how I got those documents back then. Names, places, any detail. I agreed, not out of bravery, just survival. Then I got a letter from a lawyer, divorce papers, and a short note from Emma. No drama, no yelling, nothing poetic. Just, I don't know who you are without that name, and I don't want to find out. And that's the part that hits hardest even now. Not even the cheating, not even the fake identity. It's realizing that at some point we both stopped knowing who we were living with. Quick update, because I know people will ask. Yes, they offered me the ultimate irony. New identity, new state, fresh start, if I help shut down the network. And yeah, it sounds like a joke, but now I don't hear new identity as a gift. I hear it as a cost. So, that's it. I opened a kitchen drawer looking for tape, and within a couple of weeks I didn't have a marriage, didn't have my old life, and didn't even have a clean answer to the simplest question, who I actually am.